So My Hero Academia has a lot of interesting characters, right? But not all of them are in the My Hero 1 Justice series. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing another episode of the How They Can Work series. In this series, we look at characters that are not My Hero 1 Justice 2, and we try to break them down to create movesets for them, so hopefully one day they will become a playable character. So for today's episode, we are talking about the character Shihei Kuroiro from Class 1B. And his moveset was pretty tricky to come up with, just like Hananuki. The reason why his was tricky to come up with was because his quirk is very situational, so it made it tricky to come up with a moveset for him, but I think I came up with a moveset I'm happy with, and it makes him work in the game. But before we begin, I just wanted to warn you guys that there will be some spoilers from the My Hero Academia manga, so I just wanted to warn you guys real quick that there will be some spoilers from the manga just in case you didn't want to be spoiled. Now with all that out of the way, let's begin the video. So in the My Hero 1's Justice series, each character usually has a normal attack, a red attack or an unblockable, a yellow attack or an armor attack, and they also have a quirk 1, a side quirk 1, a quirk 2, and a side quirk 2, and they also have a plus ultra level 1, 2, and 3. But in this series, we don't look at the normal attack because it's usually just the same punch or kick, and we don't look at the plus ultra level 3 because it's just 3 plus ultra level 1s combined into one big attack. So we only look at the unique things in this series. So yeah, that's how the series works. So let's just dive into this moveset. So Shihei Kuroiro's quirk is called Black, and it allows him to merge into anything that's dark in color. We've seen him merge into a couple of different things, like we've seen him merge into like shadows before, and he's been able to like move quickly in the shadows. We've seen him even take control of Dark Shadow before, and he had Dark Shadow attack Tokoyami. His quirk is very interesting and it's very cool, but it's very situational because it needs to be dark, or he has to be in like a dark space, because if he isn't, or if it is not dark, then his quirk doesn't really work because it relies on, you know, merging in with dark colored things. So to make him actually work in the game, I had to allow him to use his quirk wherever he wants, because if I didn't, he wouldn't work, because most of the maps in My Hero 1 Justice 2 are bright, like they're bright maps. Like most of them are taking place during the day. Some of them have like lights on them and stuff, and even the dark maps have like, you know, lit up spots, like in the forest map, Dobby's fire is like all over the map. So to make him work, I allowed him to use his quirk wherever he wants. So for his quirk 1, I have it labeled Merge into Darkness. This is where Kuroiro merges into the ground and you can move through it like a shadow. It's kind of like Mirio's quirk, except you can control where you go, and if you're near a wall, he can actually move up the wall as well. So it's a really good move for mobility. Also, you can't just stay in the ground. After a couple seconds he'll jump out, but you can jump out whenever you want him to, so you know, you can make him jump out before he jumps out on his own, because if you could just stay in the ground it'd be really campy. So you know, that's why I gave him like a time limit, because he can't just sit down there forever. So eventually he'll pop back up to the surface or out of the wall wherever you're located. But you can technically do that manually, but you know, after a couple seconds he'll do it, because you know, if you just stayed in the ground it'd be kind of campy. Also, it's a good move for starting combos, and like I said before, it's good for movement, because once you merge into the ground, you're like a shadow, so you can move like across the ground. If you're near a wall, you can move up the wall, and then you can pop out of the wall and start a combo, or you can start a combo by just jumping out of the ground and, you know, just starting a combo. So it's a really good move to start combos, and it's a really good move for movement. And when you do this quirk special in the air, what would happen is he would dive straight to the ground and merge into it. It doesn't do anything different in the air, he just merges straight into the ground, so keep that in mind when you do this quirk special in the air. So for side quirk 1, I have it labeled Sly Grab. This is where Kuroiro grabs the opponent by the arm, and then he merges into the ground and he drags the opponent. Then he would jump out of the ground, and then he would throw them. So if you're close enough to a wall, it can cause a wall splatter. You can also hold it so it can become a red attack as well. And when he's doing this attack, when he merges into the ground, you would still be able to see his head, arms, and body. So basically only his legs would be merged into the ground. So that's what the animation would look like. This quirk would be pretty good because, you know, it gives him a grab. It also gives him a red attack grab if you hold it. And you know, if you're near a wall, it can cause a wall splatter. So I think it's a very good move, and it could be good for extending combos. Also, you can do the grab in the air, so let's say you're finishing up a combo, then you do the grab, you know, you dive straight to the ground, he merges into the ground, and then he drags them along the ground. So if you're near a wall, again, it can cause a wall splatter, so it's good for combo extensions. It's also a reference to when he fought Aoyama, and he kind of like grabbed Aoyama by his cape, but you know, not all the characters have capes, so I have him, you know, like grabbing their arm, and then he kind of like, you know, dives into the ground a bit and moves, and while he's moving, he's like dragging the opponent. So that's where the idea of that quirk came from. So for his quirk 2, I have it labeled Shadow Punch. This is where Kuroiro throws out a punch that would launch the opponent, and it would basically be used to end a combo because, you know, he would launch the opponent. But another thing you can do with this quirk is when you're merged into the ground with his quirk 1, if you do this attack, Kuroiro would pop out and punch the opponent and then merge back into the ground. So you can use this with his quirk 1. He wouldn't completely jump out, only his head, arms, and his body would pop out of the ground like his side quirk 1. And in the series, Kuroiro uses his quirk a lot for sneak attacks, so I think this would work well for his character. So for his side quirk 2, I have it labeled Scheming Scratch. This is where Kuroiro attacks the opponent by scratching at them. He would do this attack twice, so, you know, he would basically do one scratch and then another scratch, and it would basically be used in combos. And in the series, when we see Kuroiro, he usually has his hands positioned in a certain way, and the way he has them positioned sometimes gave me the idea to give him a scratch attack, so that's what gave me the idea to make this a quirk special. And for his red attack, I gave him a red attack scratch, and for his yellow attack, I gave him an armored punch. They seem pretty basic, but I think they work for him because the scratch idea, again, came from, you know, the way he has his hands positioned sometimes, and the armored punch idea came from the time when he took control of Dark Shadow and he made Dark Shadow punch Tokoyami. Now, obviously, that was Dark Shadow punching Tokoyami, but he was technically controlling Dark Shadow, so that's where I got the idea to give him a punch. And for his level 1, I have it where Kuroiro merges into the ground and he grabs the opponent by the leg. Then he would jump out of the ground and into the air, and he would throw the opponent towards the ground. Again, it's a very simple plus ultra level 1, but I think it works for him because, you know, he likes sneak attacks and he uses his quirk a lot for sneak attacks. So him merging into the ground and grabbing the opponent by like the leg and then jumping out and throwing them towards the ground seems like a sneak attack because he's using his quirk to merge into the ground to sneak up on the opponent to attack them. So I think this plus ultra level 1 works for him. And for his level 2, this is where we have to get a little more flashier. So to start off, you know, when Tokoyami does his level 2, the background of the animation is super dark. It would be the same thing for Kuroiro. He would have that same dark background, and what would happen is the opponent would first look around and try to find Kuroiro, then they would see Kuroiro standing there and he would merge into the ground. Then the camera would cut back to the opponent who's now looking around for Kuroiro because, you know, he just merged into the ground. Then all of a sudden Kuroiro begins to jump out of the darkness, scratch the opponent, and merge back into the darkness. And he would do this a couple times before he would finish the level 2 by grabbing the opponent by the legs from the ground. Then he would drag the opponent upward, and while he does this, you can see his face with like a grin on it moving upward. And then he would jump out and throw them towards the ground, which would cause a debris explosion. Then the animation would end with the opponent on the ground and Kuroiro would pop out of the ground with a grin on his face. I think this level 2 works for Kuroiro because, again, it gives him more sneak attacks because, you know, he dives out of the darkness, scratches them, and then, you know, merges back into it. And in this series, usually when we see him moving through the shadows, you can only really see his face. So that's also kind of like a reference to the series. And again, I just think it works out pretty well for him. It gives him a dark background as well. And I like his level 2. I think it works for him. But that was my moveset for Chihai Kuroiro. Like I said before, it was pretty tricky to come up with a moveset for him because his quirk relies on it being dark, but most of the maps are pretty bright. But allowing him to use his quirk wherever he wants actually makes him work because, you know, again, not all the maps are dark, and even the maps that are dark have light on them, so, you know, if he could only use his quirk specials in the darkness, it wouldn't work. So allowing him to use his quirk specials whenever he wants or wherever he wants, even if it's not dark, would make him a pretty interesting character. And I think his quirk is pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. It's great for sneak attacks. It's great for movement. And I really think his quirk is pretty interesting. And I would love to see him come to the game. But if you guys would like to see a specific character in this series, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to try to create a moveset for that character. And if you guys did enjoy, please like and subscribe. That would be amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Later.